There's a room in Seoul, a cold, sterile room where the air smells like antiseptic and broken dreams. And in that room lies a man who once made the entire underworld tremble with a single glance, a man whose name was whispered in fear across every dark alley and smoke-filled backroom in the city. But look at him now. Just look at him. His body lies motionless on starched white sheets. His eyes, those same eyes that once commanded armies of ruthless men, now stare at the ceiling, trapped in a prison of flesh and bone that no longer obeys his commands. His chest rises and falls with the mechanical rhythm of machines keeping him alive, because his own body has betrayed him. His own body has become his jailer. Park Jae-won, the Iron Dragon, the man who built an empire from nothing, the man who rose from the gutters of Busan with bloody knuckles and an unbreakable will, who clawed his way to the top of Seoul's most feared syndicate, who made politicians bow and businessmen beg. Now he cannot even scratch an itch on his own face. The doctors huddle in the corner like frightened birds. They whisper. They always whisper now, as if he can't hear them, as if his mind has died, along with his ability to move. But oh, how wrong they are. His mind is a furnace, burning hotter than ever, consuming every word, every pitiful glance, every cruel whisper. Complete spinal cord injury, one doctor murmurs to another. He'll never walk again, probably never speak. The damage is extensive. Never walk again. Those words hang in the air like a death sentence. And perhaps they are. Perhaps death would be kinder than this. This living tomb, this conscious corpse, this emperor reduced to a breathing statue. But death would be too easy, wouldn't it? Death would be an escape. And Park Jae-won has never been given easy escapes. Not when he was a starving child, stealing scraps from restaurant garbage. Not when he took his first beating from a rival gang at 15. Not when he buried his mother in a pauper's grave because he couldn't afford flowers, let alone a proper funeral. No, life has always demanded that he suffer, and now life demands he suffer the ultimate humiliation, powerlessness. The door opens. His heart, what's left of it that still functions, quickens with something that might be hope. His eyes strain to the side, the only movement his broken body still permits. And there she is, his wife, Kim Soo-yeon, the most beautiful woman in Seoul, they used to say. The woman who stood beside him at 1,000 banquets, who wore diamonds like they were nothing, who smiled at his enemies with lips that could cut deeper than any knife. She walks in slowly. Her heels click against the hospital floor with a rhythm that sounds almost triumphant. No, that can't be right. She's his wife. She swore vows. She promised to love him in sickness and in health. But as she approaches his bed, he sees something in her eyes that makes his blood run cold. Something he's seen before, in the eyes of rivals before he destroyed them, in the eyes of traitors before he ordered their execution. Contempt, pure, undisguised contempt. She stops at his bedside. She doesn't take his hand. She doesn't stroke his hair. She doesn't weep or pray or promise to stay by his side through this nightmare. Instead, she reaches into her designer handbag, the one he bought her for their anniversary, the one that cost more than most people earn in a year, and pulls out a stack of papers. "I've had these drawn up," she says. Her voice is as cold as the hospital walls. "Divorce papers. I need you to sign them." His eyes widen. It's the only reaction his body will allow. But inside, a volcano erupts. A scream builds in his chest that he cannot release, a roar of rage and betrayal and anguish that remains forever trapped behind his frozen lips. "Don't look at me like that," she says, and there's annoyance in her voice now. Annoyance! As if he's inconveniencing her by being paralyzed. As if his destroyed body is a mere irritation in her busy schedule. "What did you expect, J1? That I would spend the rest of my life wiping drool from your chin, changing your diapers, watching you rot away in this bed while your enemies divide up everything you built?" She laughs. It's a cruel sound, a sound he's never heard from her before, or perhaps a sound she's hidden from him all these years. "I married power, J1. I married the Iron Dragon. I didn't marry." She gestures at his broken body with disgust. This pathetic shell, this nothing. That word cuts deeper than any blade ever could. She places the papers on the small table beside his bed. Then she leans down, and for one horrific moment, he thinks she's going to kiss him. But instead, she whispers in his ear, her breath hot and poisonous, "Your enemies are already circling. Kim Dong-ho has taken half your territory. The Park brothers have turned your own men against you. And Lee Sung-jin, remember him? The one whose brother you killed. He's been waiting 15 years for this moment. They're all waiting. They're all watching. And they're all going to pick your bones clean." She straightens up and smooths her perfect hair. "I've already transferred what I could to accounts in my name. The houses, the cars, the artwork. I'll be keeping those, of course. Consider it severance pay for putting up with you all these years." His eyes burn. Tears he cannot shed pool behind his frozen face. His heart pounds with fury he cannot express. His fingers, those fingers that once broke bones and signed death warrants, refuse to even twitch. "The doctors say you might understand everything," she continues, almost thoughtfully. "That your mind might be completely intact inside that useless body. Honestly, I hope it is. I hope you understand every single word I'm saying. I hope you feel every second of this betrayal, because you deserve it, J1. For every enemy you made, every life you destroyed, every drop of blood on your hands, you deserve to end like this. Alone, helpless, watching everything you built crumble to dust." She picks up her handbag and walks toward the door. "I'll have my lawyer handle the rest. Try not to die before the papers are signed. It would complicate the inheritance." And then she's gone. The door clicks shut behind her, and the sound is like a coffin lid closing. He lies there, in the silence. The machines beep their steady rhythm. The fluorescent lights hum overhead. And Park Jae-won, the Iron Dragon, the terror of Seoul's underworld, the man who bowed to no one, feels something he hasn't felt since he was a child, crying over his mother's body. He feels utterly, completely alone. The days that follow are a blur of humiliation and despair. Word spreads quickly in his world. The great Park Jae-won has fallen. The Iron Dragon is now a worm, writhing helplessly on a hospital bed. And like vultures to carrion, they come, not to pay respects. No, those days are over. They come to gloat, to confirm with their own eyes that the man they feared is truly finished. His lieutenants visit first, men who called him boss with reverence in their voices, who would have died at his command without hesitation. Now they shuffle in with awkward looks and empty words. "We'll handle things, boss. Don't worry about anything." But he sees it in their eyes, the calculation, the ambition, the plans already forming. They're not here to serve him anymore. They're here to assess, to determine which pieces of his empire they can grab for themselves. One by one, they stop coming. His accountant visits once, looks at him with something that might be pity, and never returns. His personal physician, the man he paid a small fortune to keep on retainer, sends a junior associate instead. Even the nurses begin to avoid his room, leaving him alone for hours at a stretch. And his enemies. Oh, his enemies are not so subtle. They send flowers, roses and lilies, in arrangements that fill his room with a sickly, sweet smell. But tucked into those flowers are notes that he cannot read, because he cannot turn his head far enough, cannot lift his arms to reach them. But he knows what they say. He knows they're mocking him, dancing on what they think is his grave. His wife returns twice more, not to comfort him, never to comfort him. The first time, she brings a notary and forces his thumb onto an ink pad, pressing it against the divorce papers, since he cannot sign his name. There, she says, examining the thumbprint. It's done. Finally free. The second time, she brings a photographer. She poses beside his bed with a sorrowful expression, dabbing at dry eyes with a designer handkerchief. For the press release, she explains. The devoted wife, standing by her husband's side in his final days. It will make the divorce settlement much smoother if people think I actually cared. She doesn't even say goodbye when she leaves that second time. Just walks out like he's already dead, like he's furniture, like he's nothing, nothing. That word again, it echoes in his mind, bouncing off the walls of his consciousness like a trapped bird beating itself against glass. Is this what he's become? After everything he built, after everything he survived, just nothing. The hospital staff begins to treat him like an object. They turn him every few hours to prevent bed sores, a mechanical motion, devoid of tenderness. They feed him through a tube, change his catheter with clinical efficiency, adjust his medications based on charts and numbers, rather than anything resembling human concern. One nurse, a young woman who should have known better, talks about him as if he isn't there. Such a shame, she says to a colleague while checking his monitors. They say he used to be someone important, some kind of businessman. Now look at him. Might as well be dead. Probably wishes he was. He screams inside his mind. He rages against the prison of his body. He would give anything, everything, for just 5 seconds of movement. 5 seconds to wrap his hands around her throat and squeeze until she understood that he is not dead, that he is here, that he is still Park Jae-won, damn her, and he will not be dismissed like garbage. But his body betrays him. His body has become his enemy, his jailer, his torturer, and so he lies there, motionless, while the world moves on without him. Days bleed into weeks. His empire crumbles. He hears fragments of news from the television that plays endlessly in the corner of his room, from conversations between staff who forget he can understand. Kim Dong-ho has taken control of his casino operations. The Park brothers have divided up his protection rackets. Lee Sung-jin, that patient, vengeful bastard, has claimed his shipping routes, the ones that moved goods worth hundreds of millions each year. And his wife, his beloved wife, is photographed at parties now, always with a different wealthy man on her arm. The gossip shows gleefully report on her brave new chapter, her liberation from a troubled marriage, her inspiring journey of self-discovery. He wants to vomit. He wants to scream. He wants to die. But death won't come. The machines keep pumping. His heart keeps beating. His lungs keep breathing. And he keeps existing, aware of every moment of his own destruction. Staff members quit. The hospital, he learns from overhead conversations, has been threatening to move him to a long-term care facility. His accounts have been frozen pending legal disputes. His wife's lawyers argue that he is no longer competent to manage his own affairs. The room grows quieter, fewer visitors, fewer staff members checking in. The flowers wilt and are not replaced. The gifts stop coming. Even his enemies seem to have lost interest in mocking a corpse that won't stay dead. And then, one night, in the darkest hour before dawn, everyone leaves. Everyone except one. She moves quietly, this woman, so quietly that he almost doesn't notice her at first. She's been here all along, he realizes, a shadow in the background, a presence so unremarkable that she became invisible. If the maid, he remembers her now, vaguely, a black woman, hired years ago on his wife's whim. For diversity, Suyon had said, with a cruel smile. And they're such hard workers, these immigrants, so grateful for any job. He never learned her name, never looked at her directly, never acknowledged her existence beyond the peripheral awareness that someone kept his floors clean and his laundry fresh. But now she stands at his bedside in the empty room, and for the first time, someone look at him like he's still human. Mr. Park, she says softly. Her Korean is accented, but clear. I know you can hear me. I know you understand. The doctors think you're lost in there, but I see it in your eyes. You're still fighting. His heart, that traitorous organ that keeps him alive when death would be mercy, lurches in his chest. She dips a cloth in warm water and begins to gently wipe his face. Not the rough, efficient swipes of the nurses who view him as a task to complete. No, her touch is tender, caring, human. Everyone else has left, she says quietly as she works. Your wife, your friends, your employees. They all found excuses. But I'm still here, Mr. Park, and I'm not leaving. Why? He wants to ask the question so badly. Why would you stay? Why would anyone stay for a broken man who never even learned your name? She seems to understand his unspoken question. Because someone has to, she says simply. Because you're still a person. Because no one deserves to be alone like this, no matter what they've done. She finishes cleaning his face and moves to the window, opening the blinds to let in the first gray light of dawn. My name is Grace, she says, turning back to him. Grace Adeyemi. I've worked in your house for 3 years. You probably never noticed me, and that's okay. People like me, we're used to being invisible. But I see you, Mr. Park, and I'm going to take care of you, because that's what decent people do. For the first time in weeks, the tears come. They roll silently down his cheeks, the only movement his body still permits, and Grace sees them. She crosses back to his bed and gently wipes them away with her cloth. It's okay, she whispers. You're not alone anymore. I promise. You're not alone. And in that moment, something shifts in Park Jae-won's shattered heart. Something he thought had died, along with his ability to move. Something that feels almost like hope. Let me tell you about Grace Adeyemi. She came to Korea with a dream. Isn't that how all stories of the forgotten begin? With a dream that life would chew up and spit out. She came from Nigeria, from a village where electricity was a luxury and clean water was a prayer. She was the brightest student in her school, the pride of her family, the one who would lift them all out of poverty. She saved for years, working, sacrificing, going hungry, so she could put aside a few more won for the ticket that would change her life. She came to Korea to study, to become a doctor, to heal people, and make her mother proud. But dreams have a cruel way of dying. The money ran out faster than she expected. The university doors closed. The scholarships went to others. And suddenly, this brilliant young woman found herself working 18-hour days, cleaning other people's homes, washing other people's dishes, scrubbing other people's floors. She sent money home every month. Her mother died without ever seeing her again. They couldn't afford the plane ticket. Her father followed 2 years later. Her brothers scattered. And now she's alone in a country where people look through her like she's made of glass, invisible. That's what she is. That's what she's always been. The help, the maid, the black woman in the corner that no one needs to acknowledge. When Soo-yeon hired her, it was with barely concealed disdain. You'll live in the servants' quarters. You'll eat what's left over. You'll speak only when spoken to. And Grace nodded, because what choice did she have? This was survival. This was another month's rent. This was food in her belly and a roof over her head. For 3 years, she cleaned their mansion. She polished their silver. She laundered their designer clothes. She listened to Soo-yeon's cruel comments about these people and bit her tongue until it bled. She watched Mr. Park stride through the halls like a king, never once glancing in her direction. And she told herself that it didn't matter, that she didn't need to be seen to have worth, that God saw her, even if no one else did. And now everyone has abandoned him. The great man has fallen, and his court has scattered like cockroaches in the light. His wife has taken everything she could carry. His friends have revealed themselves as vultures. His employees have found new masters to serve. Only Grace remains, not because she owes him anything, not because he ever showed her a moment's kindness, but because leaving him, leaving any human being to suffer alone in this way would be a cruelty she cannot inflict. Because that's what decent people do. She meant those words. She means them still. The hospital staff is only too happy to have someone else take responsibility. They train her quickly on the basics: how to change his feeding tube, how to prevent infections, how to monitor the machines. They hand over a phone number for emergencies and wish her luck with expressions that say they expect him to die within the month. But Grace doesn't accept death as an outcome. Not yet. Not while there's still life in those eyes. She talks to him. Every day, every hour, she talks to him. About her childhood in Nigeria. About the mango tree in her family's yard. About the sound of rain on a tin roof. About her dreams of becoming a doctor. About the patients she would have saved. About the lives she would have changed. About the little things. The taste of her mother's jollof rice. The color of the sunset over Lagos. The feeling of sand between her toes at the beach. She talks because she knows he can hear. Because she sees the way his eyes track her movements. The way they widen slightly at certain words. The way tears leak from their corners when she speaks of family and loss. You're not gone, she tells him every morning. You're trapped, but you're not gone. And traps can be broken, Mr. Park. Traps can always be broken. She plays music for him, Korean folk songs that she thinks might be familiar, American jazz that fills the room with warmth, Nigerian high life that makes her own heart ache for home. She watches his face for any sign of preference, any flicker of response, and slowly, impossibly, she starts to see it, a slight relaxing of his features when the jazz comes on, a tension around his eyes when certain news reports play on the television, a softening, just barely perceptible, when she speaks about kindness and hope. He's in there, he's fighting, and she's going to help him win. The nurses don't understand. They come to check on him, find Grace reading aloud from a Korean newspaper, and exchange glances that drip with condescension. "You know he can't understand you," one says. "His brain damage is too severe." Grace just smiles and keeps reading. "The doctor said he'll never recover," another insists. "You're wasting your time." Grace doesn't argue. What would be the point? These people have already decided what Park Jae-won is. A hopeless case, a body waiting to stop breathing, a problem that will solve itself if they just ignore it long enough. But Grace has spent her entire life being underestimated, being overlooked, being told what she could and couldn't achieve. And she's still here, still standing, still fighting every single day. If anyone understands the power of stubborn hope, it's her. Weeks pass, then months. Grace develops a routine. She arrives at dawn to wash his face and prepare him for the day. She exercises his limbs gently, keeping the muscles from atrophying completely. She talks and reads and plays music. She feeds him through the tube with the same care she would give her own father. She prays over him every night before leaving. Words in Yoruba that she hopes God understands even if Park Jae-won doesn't. And slowly, so slowly that at first she thinks she's imagining it, things begin to change. It starts with his eyes. They have always been aware, but now they're communicating. She develops a system. 1 blink for yes, 2 blinks for no. Simple questions at first, then more complex ones. "Are you in pain?" 1 blink, yes. "Should I call the doctor?" 2 blinks, no. "Do you want me to keep talking?" 1 blink. Emphatic, desperate. "Yes, yes, please, yes." She learns about him through these conversations. Not the man the newspapers wrote about. The ruthless crime boss, the iron dragon, the terror of soul, but the human being trapped inside. His fears, his regrets, his desperate burning desire to live. "Do you have children?" she asks one day. 2 blinks, no. "Do you wish you did?" A long pause. Then, slowly, 1 blink. "Yes." "Do you have any family left?" 2 blinks. "No." "Then we'll have to be each other's family," she says simply. "Is that okay with you?" And, for the first time, something that might be a smile touches the corners of his frozen lips. 1 blink. "Yes." She reads him letters. The hate mail that still arrives occasionally from enemies who haven't given up their grudge. She reads them without flinching, her voice steady and calm. "This one says you deserve to rot in hell," she reports. "It's from someone named Lee. He says you killed his brother, and he hopes you suffer for eternity." His eyes darken with something that might be guilt, or perhaps just the weight of the past. "Did you?" she asks. "Kill his brother?" 1 blink. "Did he deserve it?" A longer pause. Then 2 blinks. "No, I thought not." She sets the letter aside. "War makes monsters of everyone, Mr. Park. What matters is not what you were. It's what you choose to be now." She defends him fiercely against the hospital staff. When a young nurse makes a cruel joke about vegetables in expensive beds, Grace's eyes flash with a fury that makes the woman step back. "You will not speak about him that way," Grace says, her voice low and dangerous. He is a human being. He has ears. He has a mind. And he is more aware than you will ever know. You will treat him with dignity, or you will answer to me." The nurse laughs nervously. "What are you going to do? You're just the help." Grace steps closer. "I have nothing left to lose. Can you say the same?" The jokes stop after that. And then, one evening, something miraculous happens. Grace is reading from a book of Korean poetry. She's been teaching herself to read Hangul, slowly and painfully, because she wants to share his culture with him. Her pronunciation is terrible, she knows, but he seems to appreciate the effort. She finishes a poem about spring blossoms and looks up at him, expecting the usual blink of acknowledgement. Instead, she sees his right hand. It's moving, just his index finger, really. A twitch, a flutter, the barest suggestion of intentional movement. But it's there. After months of absolute paralysis, something is changing. "Mr. Park." She drops the book and rushes to his bedside. "Can you do that again? Can you move your finger?" He strains. She can see the effort in his eyes, the desperate concentration, and slowly, agonizingly, his finger rises and falls. She bursts into tears, tears of joy, of triumph, of vindication. All those nurses who said it was hopeless, all those doctors who wrote him off, all those people who walked away because they decided he would never recover. They were wrong. They were all wrong. "I knew it," she whispers, clutching his motionless hand. "I knew you were still fightin'. I knew you wouldn't give up." His eyes meet hers, and for the first time, she sees something there that transcends gratitude, something that looks almost like recognition, like respect, like seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. "We're going to get you back," she promises fiercely. "I don't care what the doctors say. I don't care what anyone says. You're going to speak again. You're going to move again. And when you do," her voice catches, "when you do, you're going to show everyone who abandoned you exactly what the Iron Dragon is made of." One blink, yes. From that night on, everything changes. Grace throws herself into his recovery with the determination of a woman who has nothing to lose and everything to prove. She researches spinal cord injuries obsessively, reading medical journals and rehabilitation studies long into the night. She contacts specialists around the world, begging for consultations, for advice, for any scrap of hope they can offer. Most ignore her. A few respond with polite dismissals. But one, a rehabilitation doctor in Japan named Dr. Tanaka, takes her calls seriously. "The brain is remarkable," he tells her over a crackling phone connection. "Neural pathways can sometimes reroute, especially if stimulation is consistent. What you're describing, it's rare, but not impossible. The question is whether you can sustain the intensity of care required." "I can," Grace says fiercely. "I will. It could take years. Then it takes years. He may never fully recover. Then he recovers as much as he can." There's a long pause. Then, softly, "You care about this man." "He's all I have left," she admits. "And I'm all he has. We're going to save each other, doctor. That's just how it's going to be." She implements Dr. Tanaka's suggestions with religious devotion. Electrical stimulation therapy, specialized exercises, cognitive engagement techniques. She massages his muscles, works his joints, talks to him constantly to keep his brain active and engaged. And slowly, impossibly, he responds. The finger movement becomes hand movement. The hand movement becomes arm movement. Sensation returns in patches. First his face, then his chest, then his legs. Each tiny victory is celebrated like a miracle, because that's exactly what it is. You moved your toes today, she tells him one evening, her face glowing with pride. Did you feel it? You moved your toes. He blinks twice. No, then once. Yes, and she realizes he's trying to make a joke, trying to say that of course he felt it. It's his body. She laughs through her tears. There you are. There's the spirit they used to fear. Welcome back, Mr. Park. Welcome back. And in his eyes, she sees something she never expected to find there. Love. Not romantic love. Not yet. Not really. But something deeper. Something more profound. The love of awe. Drowning man for the hand that pulls him from the water. The love of a condemned prisoner for the voice that speaks his innocence. The love of a soul in darkness for the light that refuses to let him go. He loves her for seeing him, for staying, for believing, and in that sterile hospital room, surrounded by machines and monitors, two invisible people find each other at last. Here is the truth that nobody understands. Park Jae-won was never just his body. Yes, his body was a weapon. His fists broke bones. His hands signed death warrants. His eyes froze the blood of men twice his size. But those were just tools, instruments of the real power that lived in his mind. He remembers everything, every betrayal, every face that turned away, every voice that mocked him when they thought he couldn't hear, every word his wife whispered as she abandoned him, every name of every rat who scurried from his sinking ship. He lies in that bed, trapped in that broken shell, and his mind works overtime, planning, scheming, waiting, because the Iron Dragon is not dead. The Iron Dragon is only sleeping. And when he wakes, when he wakes, Grace doesn't know the full extent of what she's saving. She sees the man, the human being trapped in a cage of paralyzed flesh. But she doesn't see the empire builder. She doesn't see the strategist who played chess with human lives for 30 years. She doesn't see the general who never lost a war, only retreated to fight another day. But he sees her. He watches her sacrifice everything for him. He watches her sleep in a chair by his bed when she should go home. He watches her spend her meager savings on his treatments when the hospital bills pile up. He watches her fight nurses and doctors and a system designed to warehouse him until death. And he makes a vow. Not to God. Park Jae-won has never believed in God. He vows to himself, to the iron core of his will that has survived every trial, every betrayal, every attempt on his life. He vows that if he survives this, when he survives this, he will repay her 1,000-fold. He will lift her out of the shadows where the world has hidden her. He will make sure she is never invisible again. But first, he needs to survive. And that means he needs to work. The exercises hurt. Grace doesn't realize how much. She's gentle, so gentle. But his nerves are rewiring themselves, and every movement sends lightning bolts of agony through his system. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't cry out, even when he regains enough control of his vocal cords to make sounds. The pain is good. The pain means progress. He starts small, moving fingers in sequence, gripping Grace's hand with increasing strength, turning his head side to side. Each movement is a battle. Each battle is a victory. His mind races ahead of his body. While his hands learn to grip again, his brain plans empire reclamation. While his legs remember how to bear weight, his thoughts trace the networks of loyalty and betrayal that determined his downfall. He knows who stayed loyal. Oh yes, he knows. The intelligence he gathered over 30 years didn't evaporate with his injury. Names, relationships, leverage. It's all still there, locked in the vault of his memory. And he knows who betrayed him. His lieutenants who carved up his territory before his blood even dried on the pavement. His accountant who froze his assets and accepted bribes to redirect funds. His lawyer who sold information to his rivals. His wife who... No, he can't think about her yet. That wound is still too fresh, too deep. When he's strong enough, and he will be strong enough, he will deal with all of them, but not with violence. No, violence is what they expect. Violence is what they've prepared for. He'll use something far more devastating. The truth. He knows secrets. So many secrets. Every powerful man in Seoul has whispered something in his ear at some point. Seeking favors, begging protection. He knows which politicians take bribes. He knows which businessmen launder money. He knows which celebrities hide addictions. He knows which judges can be bought. Knowledge is power, and Park Jae-won has knowledge enough to reshape the entire city. But he needs time, and he needs grace. She becomes his confidant, not immediately. Trust is a currency he spends carefully. But as the months pass, as his body slowly responds to her patient ministrations, he begins to share. At first, it's just expressions. The ability to smile, to frown, to communicate emotion beyond blinks. Then sounds, grunts and hums that carry meaning she learns to interpret. Then, finally, words. Rough, slurred, painful words that cost him tremendous effort. "Stay," he rasps one night, when she's preparing to leave for a few hours of sleep. "Stay, please." It's the first word she's heard him speak in over 8 months. She sits down hard on the chair by his bed, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm not going anywhere," she promises. "I'm right here." "No." He struggles with each syllable. "Not tonight. Forever. Stay. Forever." She understands what he's offering. Not romance. Not yet. But partnership. Alliance. The binding of 2 lives that have been irrevocably changed by their encounter. "Yes," she whispers. "Forever." He tells her about his plans in fragments as his speech improves. Not the details. Those he keeps locked away. But the shape of things. The intention. "We'll build. Again." He manages. "Different. Better. We'll make them all pay." "Pay how?" she asks. A twisted smile crosses his face. The first real smile in nearly a year. With their own sins. She doesn't fully understand, but she trusts him, just as he trusts her. His recovery accelerates. Dr. Tanaka, the Japanese specialist, flies in for a consultation and is astonished by what he finds. "This is unprecedented," he murmurs, reviewing the test results. The neural regeneration, the muscle recovery. "I've never seen anything like it." "He's strong," Grace says simply. "It's more than strength." The doctor looks at Park Jae-won with something like awe. It's will, sheer, superhuman will. This man should not be recovering. Every medical indicator suggests permanent, total paralysis. And yet here I am, Park Jae-won says. His voice is still rough, still labored, but growing clearer every day. Still fighting. The doctor shakes his head in wonder. "What are you fighting for, Mr. Park? What keeps you going?" Park Jae-won's eyes slide to Grace, who is adjusting his pillows in the corner of the room. "Her," he says simply. "Everything. For her." The doctor doesn't understand, but Grace does. She pauses, her hands stilling on the pillowcase, and meets his eyes across the room. In that moment, they both know. Everything has changed. Everything will change. He begins to walk again on a rainy Tuesday morning. Just a few steps, supported by parallel bars, with Grace spotting him and a physical therapist on standby. But those steps, those shuffling, agonizing, triumphant steps, are the first he's taken in over a year. Grace weeps openly. The therapist calls it a miracle. The nurses who had written him off watch from the doorway with stunned expressions. Park Jae-won doesn't celebrate. He just looks at them, at all of them, with eyes that hold a cold fire. This is nothing, he says. Watch. Watch what comes next. Within weeks, he's walking unassisted. Within months, he's conducting business from his hospital room. Phone calls, video conferences, quiet meetings with men who slip in under cover of darkness. His old network begins to reactivate. Not everyone, not the traitors, not the opportunists, but the loyal ones, the ones who kept their heads down and waited, the ones who always believed he would return. They come to him one by one. They kneel by his bedside and swear their renewed allegiance. And Park Jae-won, the Iron Dragon risen from the ashes, accepts their oaths with a cold smile. "We're going to take back everything," he tells them. "And then we're going to take more, but we're doing it differently this time. No violence, no bloodshed. We're going to win with information, with leverage, with the truth." "And your enemies?" one lieutenant asks. "The ones who stole from you?" Park Jae-won's eyes go flat and deadly. "They'll destroy themselves. I'm simply going to provide the rope." But there's one thing his lieutenants don't understand. One person they can't figure out. Grace. She's still there. Still by his side. Still cooking his meals, managing his schedule, attending to his needs. But now she sits in on meetings. Now she reviews documents. Now she offers counsel that the Iron Dragon actually listens to. "Who is she?" they whisper among themselves. "The Black Maid? Why does he keep her so close?" They don't understand, because they never could. They see power in money and muscle. They see loyalty as a currency to be bought and sold. But Park Jae-won sees the truth. He sees the woman who stayed when everyone else left. He sees the hands that fed him when he couldn't lift a spoon. He sees the voice that spoke to him like a human being when the whole world had written him off as a vegetable. She is worth more than all of them combined. And soon, very soon, the whole world will know it. There's a building in Gangnam, glass and steel, 40 stories of cold corporate power reaching toward the sky like a middle finger to the city below. This is Hanjin Tower, the headquarters of what was once Park Jae-won's legitimate business empire. For the past year and a half, it's been controlled by his enemies. Kim Dong-ho sits in the corner office, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the view of the entire glittering city. He's grown fat and comfortable in that chair. He's convinced himself that he earned it, that he deserved it, that the crippled old man rotting in a hospital bed somewhere was never worthy of such power anyway. He's wrong. The first strike comes not with bullets, but with paperwork. Kim Dong-ho wakes up one Tuesday morning to discover that every single one of his shell companies has been reported to the Financial Services Commission. Every hidden account, every laundered dollar, every paper trail he thought was buried deep enough to never surface, all of it laid bare in meticulous, devastating detail. The investigation begins before lunch. By dinner, he's been forced to resign from 3 corporate boards. By the end of the week, prosecutors are discussing prison time. How? He screams at his lawyers, his face purple with rage. How did they find out? Who talked? No one talks, because no one had to. Park Jae-won kept records. Copies of copies of copies, hidden in places no one would think to look. And now those records are making their way to the people who need to see them. The Park brothers are next. They've been running their stolen protection rackets with an iron fist, convinced they're untouchable. They've forgotten that Park Jae-won built those networks. He knows every shop owner, every restaurant manager, every small business that pays for protection. He knows their names, and their families, and their fears. Now those business owners are talking. To the press, to the police, to anyone who will listen, because Park Jae-won sent them a message, carried by trusted hands. I'm coming back, and those who help me now will be rewarded. Those who don't, he doesn't need to finish the threat. They understand. Within a month, the Park brothers are running scared. Their empire crumbles as business owners refuse to pay, as their own men defect, as the walls close in from every direction. Lee Sung-jin lasts the longest. He's clever, this one. Patient. He's waited 15 years to destroy the man who killed his brother, and he's not going to let that victory slip away without a fight. But Lee Sung-jin has secrets too. Everyone does. And Park Jae-won knows them all. A photograph surfaces online. Lee Sung-jin at a party he swore he never attended, with people he claimed he never knew. Evidence links him to a construction accident that killed 17 workers, an accident that was ruled unavoidable after suspicious donations to the inspector's office. Public opinion turns. Business partners distance themselves. The empire Lee Sung-jin built on Park Jae-won's stolen foundation begins to crumble, and through it all, Park Jae-won watches from the shadows, not hiding. No, those days are over. Recovering, strengthening, preparing. Grace is with him every step of the way. She attends the meetings now, officially, not as a maid, not as a servant, as an advisor, a confidant, the only person in the world Park Jae-won trusts completely. His lieutenants still don't understand. They look at this black woman, this immigrant maid who speaks Korean with an accent, and they see an interloper, an oddity, a temporary aberration that will surely be corrected once their boss returns to his senses. They're fools. Park Jae-won watches them watch her. He sees their sideways glances, their whispered comments, their barely concealed disdain, and he remembers. He always remembers. You're making them uncomfortable, Grace observes one evening after a particularly tense meeting. Maybe I should. No. His voice is sharp, firm. He's relearned how to speak with authority, and he uses that authority now. They need to learn. You are not a servant anymore, Grace. You haven't been for a long time. Then what am I? He considers the question. Outside the window, Seoul glitters like a field of fallen stars. Below them, millions of people live their lives, unaware that the shape of their world is being redrawn by a man they thought was dead. You're the person who saved my life, he says finally. You're the person who saw me as human when everyone else saw garbage. You're the person who believed in me when I had stopped believing in myself. He turns to face her. You're the most important person in the world to me, Grace. And soon, everyone will know it. She shakes her head, but she's smiling. You don't owe me anything, Mr. Park. I did what anyone would do. No. His voice is fierce. You did what no one else would do. That's the difference. That's why you matter. He reaches out and takes her hand. It's such a simple gesture, something anyone might do without thinking. But for Park Jae-won, who spent over a year unable to move a single finger, it's everything. Stay with me, he says. Not as a nurse, not as an employee, as my partner, as my everything. Grace stares at him. Her eyes are wet. What are you saying? I'm saying that when I take back my empire, and I will take it back, I want you beside me. Not behind me, not beneath me, beside me. Equals. But she hesitates. I'm nobody, Mr. Park. I'm an immigrant maid. I clean floors. You kept me alive, he interrupts. When doctors said I would die. When my wife left me to rot. When my enemies celebrated my destruction. You kept me alive with your own 2 hands. You spoke to me like a person. You loved me when I was unlovable. His grip on her hand tightens. That makes you the most powerful person I've ever met, Grace Adeyemi. And anyone who can't see that is blind. The tears spill over. She doesn't try to stop them. Okay, she whispers. Okay, yes, I'll stay. Forever? She laughs through her tears. Forever. He pulls her close, and for the first time, he kisses her. It's not a perfect kiss. His body is still relearning its old capabilities, and there's awkwardness in the mechanics of it. But the feeling behind it is perfect, pure, true. When they finally part, both of them are crying. I need to tell you something, he says. Something I should have said a long time ago. What? My name. He smiles. My real name. Not Park Jae-won. That's what the papers call me. My family name. The name my mother gave me before she died. Tell me. Jae-woo, he says softly. Park Jae-woo. It means shining rain. My mother said she named me that because I was born during a storm, and the lightning lit up the whole sky. Jae-woo, Grace repeats. The name feels sacred in her mouth. It's beautiful. No one has called me that in 30 years. But I want you to. I want you to call me by my real name. The name of the man I was before I became the Iron Dragon. The name of the man you saved. Jae-woo. She says it again, tasting the syllables. My Jae-woo. Yours, he agrees. Only yours. Forever. The next months are a blur of activity. Park Jae-won, Jae-woo to Grace, continues his recovery while simultaneously orchestrating the destruction of his enemies. It's a delicate balance, requiring strength he barely has, and energy he can't afford to waste. But Grace is there to keep him grounded, to remind him to rest, to make sure he doesn't burn out before his victory is complete. His empire reconstitutes around him like iron, filings drawn to a magnet. Old allies return. New ones present themselves, attracted by the legend of the man who rose from paralysis to reclaim his throne. The business interests, the networks of influence, the carefully cultivated relationships, all of it flows back to him as naturally as water seeking its level. But he's different now. The Iron Dragon has been tempered in a fire of suffering and reborn as something harder, something colder, and yet, somehow, something more human. No more violence, he tells his lieutenants. Not unless there's no other choice. We win with information, with leverage, with power that can't be fought with bullets. They don't understand, but they obey. This is the boss they remember. The one who always saw 3 moves ahead, who won wars without firing a shot, who turned enemies into allies, with nothing but a whispered conversation. Only Grace understands what's really happening. Only she knows that his change runs deeper than tactics or strategy. "You're not the same man," she tells him one night. "The one who built that empire the first time. You're different now." "Better?" he asks. She considers. "More aware of what matters, of what doesn't." "You mean I'm less of a monster." "I mean you're more of a man." She kisses his forehead. "And I love you for it." The empire rebuilds. The enemies fall. And the day approaches when Park Jae-won will make his public return. When the world will learn that the Iron Dragon is alive and well and more powerful than ever. But first, there's one more piece of business to attend to. His wife. The news breaks on a cold December morning. "Korean business tycoon makes miraculous recovery." The headlines scream. Park Jae-won returns to public life after year-long illness. The story spreads like wildfire through Seoul's elite circles. The man they wrote off as finished, the mogul they counted out, the enemy they stopped fearing. He's back, not just alive, thriving, powerful, dangerous, and Kim Soo-yeon watches the news from her luxury apartment in Manhattan with growing horror. She's done well for herself since the divorce. The settlement was generous, obscenely so, considering she spent less than a week at his bedside before abandoning him. She's been photographed on yachts in Monaco, at galas in Paris, on the arms of men whose wealth shields her from ever facing consequences. She told herself he would die. She was sure of it. The doctor said so. Everyone said so. He was supposed to quietly fade away, leaving her free to enjoy the spoils of their marriage without guilt or complication. But he didn't die. The bastard didn't die. And now he's reclaiming his empire, which means he's reclaiming assets she thought were safely hers, which means the divorce settlement might be reopened, which means everything she's built since leaving him could come crashing down. She has to go back. She has to fix this. The flight from New York to Seoul is 18 hours, and she spends every minute planning what to say, how to look, how to twist herself back into his good graces. Because that's what she's good at, isn't it? That's what she's always been good at. Reading men, finding their weaknesses, exploiting their needs. She was never beautiful in the way that came naturally. She made herself beautiful, worked at it, crafted it, turned it into a weapon as deadly as any knife. Men saw her face and wanted to protect her. They saw her body and wanted to possess her. They saw her tears and believed every lying syllable that dripped from her perfect lips. Park Jae-won was the biggest catch of her life, the most powerful man in Seoul's underworld, and he fell for her act completely, worshipped her even. She could have asked for anything, and he would have given it. But then he got hurt, and she saw her chance. A man like Park Jae-won, a man with that much power, that many enemies, would never have let her go easily. Divorce would have been complicated, messy, dangerous. But a paralyzed vegetable? One who couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't do anything to stop her? That was an opportunity. She doesn't feel guilty. Guilt is for people who lack vision. She did what she had to do to survive, to thrive. If he wasn't strong enough to hold on to his power, then he didn't deserve to keep it. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. But now he's back, and natural selection is about to turn against her. She arrives in Seoul on a Tuesday evening, her designer luggage trailing behind her like a parade of wealth. She's booked the best suite at the best hotel. She's brought her most devastating dress, A black Valentino that costs more than most people earn in a year. She's prepared her weapons. Time to go to war. She calls his office first. A secretary, male, professional, unimpressed by her name, takes a message. She waits and waits and waits. 2 days pass before she receives a response. A single line, delivered by courier. Mr. Park will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m., Hanjin Tower, 40th floor. She feels a flutter of nerves beneath her carefully maintained composure. It's not like him to make her wait. The old Jae-won would have rushed to her side, eager to please, desperate to win back her approval. Something has changed. No matter. She adjusts. That's what she does. The next morning, she takes extra care with her appearance. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect dress. She looks at herself in the mirror and sees what she wants others to see. A beautiful, contrite woman, ready to make amends. Let the performance begin. The elevator ride to the 40th floor feels endless. Her heart pounds. With nerves, she tells herself, not fear, never fear. She is Kim Soo-yeon. She doesn't feel fear. The doors open onto a reception area she doesn't recognize. Everything has been renovated. Cleaner, more modern, stripped of the old, ornate style that used to mark her husband's taste. A young woman sits behind a marble desk, wearing a tailored suit and an expression of cool professionalism. Mrs. Kim, the receptionist says, Mr. Park is expecting you. This way, please. It takes Soo-yeon a moment to realize her error. Mrs. Kim, not Mrs. Park. They've already erased her from his name. She follows the receptionist down a long hallway lined with windows. The view is spectacular. All of Seoul spread beneath them like a glittering carpet. But she barely notices. She's too busy preparing her face, her words, her tears. The receptionist opens a door at the end of the hall. She's here, sir. Send her in. That voice. She knows that voice. But it's different now. Stronger, harder, stripped of the warmth it once held for her. She steps into the office. He's standing by the window, his back to her. Tall, straight. His posture is perfect. No sign of the broken man who couldn't lift his own head just a year ago. He's wearing a dark suit that fits him like armor, and when he turns, she has to work to hide her shock. He looks good, better than good. He looks healthy, vibrant, powerful. Whatever happened to him in that hospital, whatever miracle brought him back from the edge of death, has transformed him. He's lost weight, gained muscle, gained something else she can't quite name. A coldness, a certainty, a look in his eyes that says he sees everything, including her. Soo-yeon, he says. Her name sounds like an insult in his mouth. You came back. Jae-won. She rushes forward, arms outstretched, tears already forming in her eyes. My God, Jae-won. When I heard you were recovered, I couldn't believe. I had to come. I had to see for myself. Stop. One word. Just one. But it freezes her mid-stride. Don't, he says. Don't embarrass yourself. We both know why you're here. She switches tactics instantly, drops the theatrical tears, straightens her spine. Fine. Let's talk business then. I have concerns about the divorce settlement. Given your recovery, I think we need to discuss certain assets that were. You left me to die. The words hit her like a slap. He says them calmly, almost conversationally, but they carry the weight of a death sentence. I was alone, he continues, paralyzed, unable to speak, unable to move, and you walked into my hospital room, pressed my thumbprint onto divorce papers, took everything you could carry, and told the staff I wouldn't last the month. He takes a step toward her. You photographed yourself at my bedside for the press release. You called me a burden. You said I was finished. That's not. I was scared, J1. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking perfectly clearly. Another step. You saw an opportunity to escape a marriage you never wanted in the first place. A chance to take my money and my assets without having to deal with me. You calculated your odds and made your move. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise. She's genuinely frightened now. This isn't the man she married. This isn't the man who used to worship her, every movement, who forgave her every cruelty, who loved her, despite everything she did to hurt him. This is someone new, someone dangerous. Jaewon, please. She tries the tears again. I made a mistake. I know that now. But I was devastated by your injury. I couldn't cope. I didn't know how to handle seeing you like that. So you handled it by abandoning me. I thought you were dying. And that made it acceptable? I was protecting myself. From what? His voice rises for the first time, and she flinches. From having to care for your husband. From having to sacrifice something for someone who gave you everything. From having to be a decent human being for once in your miserable, parasitic life. She takes a step back, then another. She's against the wall now, and he's still advancing. And she finally understands how his enemies felt when they faced the Iron Dragon. Do you know what saved me? He asks softly. Do you know who stayed? I don't. The maid. He smiles, and it's the coldest thing she's ever seen. The black maid you hired as a joke. The woman you treated like furniture. The woman you never even bothered to learn the name of. She stayed. She fed me. She talked to me. She believed in me when everyone else, including you, had written me off as dead. The maid? Soo-yeon's voice is incredulous. You can't be serious. Her name is Grace. Grace Adeyemi. And she is worth more, infinitely more, than you will ever be. Jaewon, she's... Soo-yeon catches herself, but not quickly enough. She's what? His voice is dangerous now. Go ahead. Say it. I want to hear you say it. Soo-yeon's mask cracks. The fear gives way to something uglier. The contempt she's hidden for so long. She's a maid, she spits. A nobody. An immigrant who scrubs toilets for a living. And you're comparing her to me, to Kim Soo-yeon. I was the Queen of Seoul. I attended galas with presidents and CEOs. You were nothing. He says it quietly, but it silences her completely. You were a beautiful mask over an empty soul, he continues. You were a parasite dressed in designer clothes. You were a lie I told myself because I was too proud to admit I'd been fooled. He turns away from her, walking back to the window. Grace showed me what real love looks like, real loyalty, real courage. She has more worth in her smallest gesture than you have in your entire being. Soo-yeon's hands are shaking. You can't just... I can. He turns back to face her, and now there's no anger in his eyes, just a vast, cold emptiness. You came here for money, for assets, for some piece of what I've rebuilt, but you won't get it. You won't get anything. The settlement was based on fraudulent circumstances. My lawyers have already filed the paperwork. Given that I was incapacitated and unable to provide informed consent, and given that you misrepresented my medical condition to secure favorable terms, the entire divorce will be contested. Her face goes white. You can't prove. I have witnesses, medical records, testimony from hospital staff. Everything you said and did while you thought I was unconscious and dying. He smiles again. Did you know that the hospital keeps recordings? For security purposes. Every word you whispered in my ear, Suyan. Every cruel thing you said. Every gloating syllable. I have it all. She opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again. No words come out. Here's what's going to happen, he says. You're going to leave Seoul tonight. You're going to go back to whatever hole you've been hiding in, and you're never going to contact me again. In exchange, I won't destroy you. Destroy me? I know things about you, Suyan. Things you've done, people you've hurt, favors you've called in, and debts you've left unpaid. I could make your life very, very difficult, but I won't. Not because I forgive you. I don't, but because you're not worth the effort. You're simply not important enough. That last sentence hits her harder than anything else. Not important enough. Her entire identity, everything she's built, everything she believed about herself, dismissed with a wave of his hand. You loved me, she whispers. Once you loved me. I loved an illusion, he corrects. And the illusion is over. He presses a button on his desk. The door opens, and the receptionist appears. Please escort Mrs. Kim to the elevator, he says. She won't be returning. Jae-won. Goodbye, Suyan. Security arrives. Strong hands grip her arms, propelling her toward the door despite her protests. You can't do this, she screams. I won't let you. I'll tell everyone what you are. I'll destroy you. He doesn't even look at her, just stands by the window, gazing out at the city that will soon belong to him again. You loved my power, he says softly, so softly she almost doesn't hear it. She loved my life. The door closes. The elevator descends, and Kim Soo-yeon vanishes from Park Jae-won's story forever. But another woman is just beginning hers.